Hi guys, this is week 22 Project Life and I have cracked open my brand new Citrus Twist Kit's July kit. So I'm starting as usual with my photos and I'm just going to add a couple of these 3x4 cards. I'm keeping them sort of plainer and I've got a gap in the middle here, so I think I'm going to use the packaging from the 3x4 cards to create a little shaker pocket. So I'll fix that up later, and for now I'm just going to I wanted to add that map paper because we had gone on sort of a road trip. And then I was just picking out a few that might work with that. And I quite like the cloud one. I'm not super happy with it, but for now I think that will do. So I'm just going to trim down my 6x6 paper to 4x6 and then trim it even more because I'm still working with these really weird page protectors. So a few more of these cards and photos I did have to trim. They're way smaller than 3 inches to make them fit in the pocket. I don't know what is wrong with it, but I just have to trim the cards to make them fit. So this one here, I've got a couple of little Instax photos, so I'm just going to stick them down. And I've been through the die cut pack and picked out a few that I like or that I think I might use. So I'm just going to add one of those tabs there, and then I'm going to add one of these gorgeous little wood veneer hearts. These wood veneers are really quite thin, so I am a little bit careful when I glue them. I make sure they're flat on the desk because I have actually split a couple of them before. So that's a little tip from me. And so now I'm going to work on my little shaker pocket. So I'm just going to trim down that packaging on 2 sides. It's going to be slightly smaller than 3x4 because I want to turn this into like a shaker card. So I've picked out all these little diamond shapes out of the die cut pack, so I'm going to slip them inside here and hopefully they don't move around too much, and then I'm going to stitch around the outside. Before I do that, I'm going to add one of the pieces from the cut apart sheet, so I want to have that at the top and I'm going to stitch through that as well, but I'm just going to glue that down a little bit to make it easier. And now I've got that all stitched, I have a wee shaker card that I can stick into that pocket. I've got the narrative stamp set this month, which is a separate subscription, and it is gorgeous. This one's sort of book themed, but so many of those stamps are applicable to Project Life as well. So on this bottom photo, all I'm doing is adding 2 of them and just stacking them one on top of the other and stamping them in black ink. Now this card here, I knew I wanted a plainer sort of ledger card like it was, but I didn't want to use the title that was on it. So I saw this Amaze Balls piece that was on the cut apart sheet and I knew I would glue that over the top. And I'm also going to stitch through the middle of it just to carry on that sort of stitched texture. And I'm going to do the same thing around the edge of the photo on that other card just to tie it all together. So now I've put the stitching on, I'm going to add another one of those wood veneer hearts and one of these gold foil arrows. They're just so beautiful. Just make a wee cluster at the top there, and then to repeat that same thing, because I love 3s, I'm adding another wood veneer onto that other card as well. Now for this photo here, it was really busy and wasn't my favourite, so I want to cover up a little bit of the busyness, and I'm going to create my own label with the narrative stamp set. So I've just stamped that sort of book plate looking stamp onto just some white card. I'm going to add one of the icons into it as well, and now I've got a really cute place to do my journaling. I was looking to see whether I wanted to add anything else, and I decided not to. I decided to leave it as is. But before I stick that down onto my photo, I think I'm going to mat it with the same matte paper that I used on the bottom right. So I'm just adding a tiny little bit of that around the edge before I glue that down, and again, just to repeat the whole thing, I'm going to add some stitching down the side. And again, I wanted to repeat that same element, so I'm adding another one of those gold foil arrows. And then on this photo, I'm just going to add some simple stamping from that same narrative stamp set. This time I'm going to stamp one of the stripe patterns in gold, and then I'm going to add my sentiment in white because the photo is so dark and I love adding white stamping onto a dark photo. Now, while I was doing the stamping, I realized that I really loved the background card sort of packaging from the narrative stamp. It's a really pretty like teal grid. So I wanted to use that. It's not quite 4x6, so I'm just gonna work out where to trim that down to. And you'll see I do end up with that sort of yellow narrative stripe on it. So all I'm going to do is use that same map paper. So now I've used it 3 times, which is, again, just repeating that same element 3 times. Really does add to the balance of it. And for a bit of texture, I'm also going to add one of the glassine bags and just stitch down the side to keep that in place. And as usual, I want to add a label to do my date stamping. I just couldn't work out which label I was going to use. The cut-apart sheet does come with several options, and in the end I just went for a really basic grey one. And I'm going to use these beautiful gold glitter alphas to spell out week. Now, there are no numbers in this alpha, and I don't want to use up all my E's spelling out 22. Well, let's be fair, it would use up basically most of my letters, so I am going to stamp the numbers eventually with the Citrus Twist Kit numeral stamp set. So for now, I've just spelled out week, and then I'm going to add my date stamping in. Just making sure I actually get the right month on there. This is one of those weeks that crossed over months. Add my little heart with a pen, and then here's the numeral stamp, and I'm just going to stamp that in black just to tie in all those other darker elements on the page. So that's my title card all done, and now literally all I have to do is add just a tiny little bit of journaling here and there. So I love this wee stamp for a journaling spot. It's just perfect size for me, who doesn't use a lot of journaling. And I'm also going to add a couple wee bits on these 3x4 cards as well. And that is this week all done. So I challenge you to use some packaging. All of these kits come beautifully packaged, and it seems a waste to throw it out. So how about we find some creative ways to use it all? If you want to keep watching, there's a couple more videos on screen. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!